For Black women to be fully resourced, what do you know is necessary for that to be?
Rest. That sounds so foreign to me, for Black women to be fully resourced. To be fully resourced means that we would not have to worry about where the next meal is coming from. We would not have to worry about the competition that is bred into the culture and that capitalism sets us up for. I think that we need identification of what rest is and what it is not, and we need to know that we're deserving of it, no matter.
Black women in Pittsburgh need many things to access respite and rest. We first need to be heard and believed. That is the very first.
What is going to make it more valuable for Black women to live in the fullness of who you are? And how can the Opportunity Fund be supportive of that, in that dream?
Think of need. I feel like it's a human right to have rest. I feel like it should be as accessible as air, but we also know that air isn't as accessible as it can be.
Rest for me has been a trauma response to the trauma that I'm experiencing on a daily basis. It hasn't been because I want to rest. It's been because my body is saying, you've had enough being beat up today. It's been more of a survival apparatus to be able to wake up the next day to keep going.
When I'm in my safest places, my most joyful places, I sleep. I was just visiting my line sister in New Jersey, and I saw her just for a day, and I fall asleep on her like at the drop of a dime. And she's like, Autumn, I've never seen anything like it. Something's wrong, this is definitely different, And I was like, you don't understand, this doesn't just happen all the time for me. And she said to me, well, I'm needing you to leave Pittsburgh, because if you don't feel relaxed like that where you are, then that's not healthy.
So when I think about what can happen in this city, I think of all the folks who have already been doing the work, who have said this is what we are co-creating for a community. And those ventures need to be funded. They need to be picked up with all of the, Pittsburgh's a city of nonprofits, right? And there's a hierarchy of nonprofits, and there's a hierarchy of who gets funding. There needs to be more hierarchy on co-creation, collaboration. How can we work together as a city to actually shift the practices that would invite more care for our community members? We cannot continue to be left behind.
Firstly, for the LGBTQ cisgender community to step aside. It's very important that they understand that the granddaughters and daughters of their liberators are still struggling, and to shift the equity that has already been produced to the LGBTQ cisgender community, who tends to infantilize trans people instead of actually actualize our leadership and development as a community. That's very important, and a conversation we have amongst each other as trans, especially Black trans leaders around the country. And I've seen how Black trans women can live when the society around them is also a support system for them to thrive. And as envious as that is at times, it still gives me this unimaginable high, in essence, of what we could be in Pittsburgh if we had the resource and access to these resources to be able to have opportunities to thrive.
The systems that have created our environment that perpetuates no opportunity for rest. Like, I will never think about it until somebody says it, like, hey, we're having a day of rest, you wanna come? It's like, wait, what? What does that mean? Like, am I deserving? Like, rest, who does that? You know, we're too busy to rest. I'm too productive, there's stuff to do to rest. You mean this can be a part of my productive day, or my way to health is through rest, so, yeah.
Because my mind is constantly thinking. That's what I was thinking about when I was sitting downstairs. I said, you know, this is work too, because my mind is constantly thinking. And when I'm thinking constantly, I'm not at rest.
I think that's like one thing I learned from my mother, who's like, she's my role model for rest. Like, there's a lot of things that she did that were very unconventional, and, you know, like, she was a pediatric nurse in New York. Like, when she had me, like, we moved here after a while, and then she didn't go back to nursing, but, like, you know, that was like a weird choice for a lot of people. It's like, she could have made so much money doing that, but I just saw her throughout her life do a lot of things that made sense for her. And sometimes, you know, it didn't result in money necessarily, but it just taught me to, like, look at things differently. You know, like, the reward isn't always going to be having more money or whatever it is, but I don't know. It feels, I don't know. I think that's part of freedom, just like doing what you want.
Hi everyone. I'm Michael Tequili. I like to believe we have a really nuanced approach to philanthropy, in that it's always advised by the communities that we work with and the communities we support. This particular initiative was really special. I want to take a moment to mention Celeste Scott, who was one of the mothers in our city who did a lot of work, and she was also one of those individuals that came to us and said, this is very needed for our community.
Okay, Jake, you know, so when we met with the very first retreat, we designed it to be multicultural. We designed it to be intergenerational. And it was in this beautiful place called River Mountain in 2022. And there a question was posed to you, and that question was, are you committed to Black women?
What I wanted to say was that yes, we are ready to commit to Black women, but I felt fairly certainly that we couldn't yet, because we had not yet had any other conversations outside of the conversations that were currently happening at the retreat. We didn't have any accountability structures in place. And so it did not feel honest to say, yes, we are ready to commit to Black women, because we didn't know what we were saying we were ready to commit to. The question that was really being asked was, Jake, are you and is the Opportunity Fund ready to love Black women? I didn't understand that.
But they made it clear.
They made it very clear. What I can unequivocally say now is that yes, the Opportunity Fund is ready to love Black women. We do love Black women, and I do love Black women. And I can say that unequivocally because we internally have done a lot of work to understand what that means and what that commitment means and what that love looks like. And it begins with an acknowledgement that Black women have been doing this work and having these conversations for a long time. But they have been in this space, if not their whole lives, for a long time. And many people have been inviting them to these spaces. And in fact, they've never left. They never leave. And it's us who leave.
We spoke a lot about just kind of the politics around rest and the politics of being Black and being a Black woman. And also we talked about the politics of foundations and philanthropy, and how, you know, it kind of started as like, okay, we need to make spaces to rest, right? Like we need to make these spaces to rest, but how can we make sure that everyone feels comfortable in these spaces, feel safe in these spaces. We talked about how Black folks are not like the things that we've tried to do, and then there's someone that doesn't feel comfortable in that space, right? And like, because Black people are not monoliths, yes. And so we also talked about how because of capitalism and because we feel this shame to rest, that we need some people to be radical resters, right? To rest first, to be like, I'll be the first one to rest. So then other people, so we can see it, so it's less scary, right? So other people see it and they're like, oh, I want to rest too. Oh, I see what she got, you know, like that's necessary for us, like as a community, you know?
One of the conversations, or sort of the paths of conversation that we took, was about the importance of nature and how that contributes to the physical rest via sensory engagement. Creating a center for Black women locally in the city, and what would that look like? What would that look like for us if we had an actual place that Black women could go to rest, and it was, you know, a center for Black women locally in Pittsburgh.
Boards, particularly within foundations, being barriers, right? Because a lot of times, you know, we know sometimes staff, they might carry the torch and then something stops at the board level because the board hasn't done their work. We're going through our own like anti-racism training. We have our affinity groups. We're in that process. We've been in that process. We talked about the need for monthly checks, right, for Black women.
One of the reasons we entered into this work to ask what can the Opportunity Fund do to support rest for Black women was when a community organizer named Celeste Scott, may her memory be for a blessing, just wrote me a really short email that said, Jake, a bunch of Black women, a bunch of us need to get away. We need some respite. Please advise. We now have a path that we're going to try forward. And we were able to commit to it because I know that every single board member and every single staff member and myself, we are ready to commit to trying something, to ultimately create a path of economic ease, if not generational wealth for Black women.
Mm-hmm.
Yvette, I do wonder if Black women were able to have everything that they needed to rest. What would that mean? What would that mean for you?
You know, that's a heavy question. What that would mean for me, if Black women had everything we needed so that we could rest, it would mean that we wouldn't have to fight every day. We wouldn't have to fight every day, and everything would change. It wouldn't only change for me and us, it would also change for you, right? It would change for all of us, because I think about this concept of mother metaphorically, and I think about Mother Nature and how Mother Nature holds and protects us. And the same needs to be true for Black women, I feel. And our minds, our bodies, when they are at rest, it's what is possible. What can happen? What would it mean? It means I might live longer. It means that our children could live longer. It means that we could say goodbye to our children as they're on their way to schools and trust that we'll see them again. It means that we could play with our children. It means that we could give them our undivided attention. It means that maybe we wouldn't have to work for two or three jobs and to be able to spend time. Maybe we could take a vacation with our children. Maybe we could care for our children in a way that supports all of their activities, their education. We could pay our medical bills. We could pay our own bills and rest well at night, because we could pay it on time.
I was applying for undergraduate financial aid the first time I learned about my mother's yearly salary. I knew that we were poor. I also knew that working meant always working. I didn't know that there was a calculation for the two. In the salary section, my mother wrote $12,618 a year. It struck me. Everything came together. At 18, I was already tired. My mom was tired. I never could explain why until I saw the number. 14 years later, I attended Black Respite by invitation of Yvette Shipman. The moment we were awarded $11,500, I thought back to the first moment I understood exhaustion. In less than 3 days, I was awarded my mother's yearly salary for most of my childhood because I was resting. Before the award, I thought about my mother a lot during Black Respite. Her spirit informed me. This honorarium helped me move through a trauma bond I have with money. Now I know if I rest, there will be enough.
Rest and respite set a precedent for me. As a cultural producer who entered the philanthropic sector about 3 years ago, I was alarmed by just how abruptly my inquiries into certain processes and procedures would continuously get pacified with responses like, because this is how we've always done it. Unfortunately, we only have X amount of dollars to distribute, or there is no way we can make that happen in philanthropy. That one trip demonstrated that actually everything, not anything but everything, is possible. We no longer have to honor antiquated systems of scarcity models that don't serve us. There is actually an abundance, and there is always, always a way. We who do this work must remain vigilant, to not be convinced that our work is done, or that all of our goals have been accomplished, or that one stride means we've won the marathon. We must learn our value. We must demand just compensation. We must disinvest in programs and people who no longer align with our mission.
The honorarium was so helpful in so many ways. One, it allowed me to pay off some debt that I had that was following me for some years. I can now say that that debt is paid off, and it feels really good. The honorarium also gave me a peace of mind. Because of it, I was able to leave my job earlier than I had originally planned and able to enjoy my time in Pittsburgh, spending my days doing the things that I actually wanted to do. I still have some of the honorarium left as an emergency savings, something I wasn't able to budget for before. That honorarium was truly life-changing and has added to my life in more ways than one.
First, deep and eternal gratitude for being included in the space and for the generosity shared with us. For folks being in a collective practice and responsive to what came forth during that time. Second, what I am continuously learning and unpacking is how important, necessary it is for us to be able to have more choices and life chances in order to be well and/or have opportunities to grow our well-being. These resources are supporting me in growth, healing, having more joyful experiences, and have offered me some mental space away from the despair that has often weighed heavily on my heart and mind. It has increased my ability to respond to challenges in a more resourced way, materially, mentally, and emotionally. It has also increased my ability to give and share and remain whole, rather than from pouring from an empty cup. I've also been blessed to be able to be more responsive to my own needs and aim to take better care of myself. I've been able to contribute to various fundraising efforts, engage projects, pay artists, and share with folks' loved ones where previously I may have experienced more challenges in trying to do so. I am learning more about what I need in order to invite more consistency and affirming energy into my life. I am being intentional with how I steward this resource. It is so appreciated.
This poem is called What Kind of Black Girl? Black girls are sensitive. After centuries of being told we don't have the right to be tender with ourselves, we might just jump down your throat to help you spit out the toxicity this country has taught you. We will bring the fire of our ancestors and spit on the graves of slave masters, demanding you say our children's names. We will bring the memories of blood-splattered concrete from black girls and boys cemented as faces on hood memorial murals to disrupt your events of respectability. She who deserves to be handled with care, so she extended her hand to another black girl and said, "Me too." And created global hashtags to laugh and cry and dance and fight and celebrate the vibration of her trachea every single time she sings. There is no country for blistered black girl hands that have mended all these hearts. I could have told you of her complexity, but you were too fixated on her rolling eyes, so she has the right to remain silent and scream. I will not tell you there was only one kind of black girl. That would be like trying to count the number of frames you've ever seen in your life. That would be a betrayal of my community of self, every single part of me. Sometimes I wonder if our girls are made for this world where trauma becomes armor, where stepping into the fullness of yourself is a revolutionary act of love. Sometimes I see her, feet bare in grass, running through time without having to sit still. Black girls are a single candle burning across universal continuums. They try to kill us before we grow and become sky. And some, they did. Weeds suffocating me in inherited chokeholds, trying to calcify me into white powder, so every call of her name into the darkness and no one answers back is a reminder of all she has lost and all she has to fight to own. So every smile is defiance, every circle of hands is resistance, every single wail is resilience. We are erratic bees swarming with righteous indignation, dignified and abrupt, coloring inside the lines, bubble in mouth, and disobedient code reds, finding each other in flashes, leading all of us from dark corners, creating human chains, climbing, climbing, climbing towards the sun.
Instead of feeling like we have to save the whole world, we could then love that. We could love the world rather than feeling like we had to save the world. So if Black women could rest, the whole game would change for every single person on the planet, because we have been holding everyone. Period.
And this is what is really easy now to say we are committed to. It's beautiful, it's powerful, and it is so real.
Yeah. Thank you.
No, thank you.
Thank you. So as I end so many things with, the rest is unknown. The rest is unknown in our bodies and also in this process. But as I said at that retreat, and as I say here with all of my counterparts, which is all of y'all, we don't know what it will be at the end, but we are hearing you. And we will take back what we heard and not take away or add to it. Maybe we'll add to it in the best ways, meaning more, but not take away. And to honor all the voices and the time and the energy and the care and the love that you all have brought today. And I cannot thank you enough. We cannot thank you